So today we are going to figure out how to find equivalent fractions using fraction strips. Now before we can figure out any equivalent fractions, we need to understand how these fraction strips work. So here you see 12 rectangles that are exactly the same size. Now each rectangle is broken into a different amount of pieces. So we can use our knowledge of the parts of a fraction to figure out how to label these fraction strips. So if we have 1, that's going to be our whole. So I'm going to put our 1 there. Now here we have the whole is broken into 2 pieces. So each of these pieces will represent 1 half. And if we go down to the next rectangle, our whole is broken into 3 pieces. So our denominator has to be 3, and each of these pieces will represent 1/3 of our whole. And we're going to keep doing this all the way down. We have to count how many pieces our whole is broken into to figure out the denominator. So here our whole is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So this will each be 1/4. Here our whole is broken into 5 parts. So each of these will represent 1/5. And you'll keep doing this until you get all the way down to the bottom, following the same pattern. So now we have filled our fraction strip model out from 1 whole all the way down to 12ths. So now let's see how we can use this model to help us find equivalent fractions. Let's say we want to use our fraction strips to find all the fractions that are equivalent to 1/2. So first thing we have to do is shade in 1/2 on our model. So I'm going to go to where I see a 1/2, and I'm going to shade that in. Now, I stopped at 1/2, so I'm going to be looking for fraction strips that have a stopping point exactly where 1/2 stops. And to make this easier, I can draw a long line across my fraction strips showing where 1/2 stops. So let's see. 1 whole doesn't have anything equivalent to 1/2, so we know that that can't work. Now, 1/3 is too small to be equivalent, but 2/3 is too large, so we know that 1/3 won't work as well. However, those fourths seem to stop at the same place as 1/2. So 2 of our fourths pieces are going to be equivalent to our 1/2. So we can write 1/2 equals 2/4. Now we can keep going down our fraction strips because I think there might be some more fractions that are equivalent to 1/2. So the fifths don't stop at the same place, so we cannot use those fifths. However, those sixths, we have 1, 2, 3/6 that take up the same amount of space as that 1/2. So 1/2 is equal to 3/6. And we can keep going, testing this out all the way down the fraction strips. So 7ths won't work, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 8ths is exactly the same. It's equivalent. See how all the shaded parts are the exact same size? Let's look for one more. Let's go down to 12ths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 over 12, or 6/12 is also the same as 1/2. So that's how we use our fraction strips to figure out equivalent fractions. Now let's try a different one. So let's say we want to find a fraction that is equivalent to, 2/3. So our first step is we're going to shade in 2/3 on our fraction strips. And then we'll draw a line, and we'll see if any places meet at the same spot. So it looks like 6ths do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 is equivalent to 2/3. Now, in our next lesson, we're going to learn an easier way to solve for equivalent fractions without fraction strips. However, this is a great starting way to learn how to see and find equivalent fractions.